In this video, I'm going to be talking about what is arguably the most important kind of up activity that we can have in a phonics lesson, the warm-up. What we do in the first few minutes at the very beginning of the lesson. Now the warmer has multiple functions. Primarily it's to get everybody on the same page. We want to get everybody in, everybody settled, everybody happy to be there, and so on. If we can do that, then that's half the battle won already. If we've got a kid who's a little bit unhappy or grumpy when they come into the classroom, we need to try and iron that out as much as we can if they're going to get any benefit from the lesson. So this is where warmers come in. They're also very useful for integrating new students. It's quite intimidating going into the classroom with a giant foreigner who's 5 times bigger than you, talking a language you barely understand. So we need to make sure that we have things in place that can help make this as smooth as possible. So I'll talk about that main function, getting everybody on the same level first, and I'll also talk a little bit about integrating new students who are a little bit nervous later on. Now, warmers themselves can be really very, very simple. At its most basic level, and it's a perfectly valid warmer, is when the students come into the room, you just let them play. It's perfectly okay to just let the kids, if there's toys in the classroom you're using, great, let them get the toys out, let them interact with each other, interact with you for 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning. That does the job. That gets everybody into the same place and gets them kind of ready to go on with the lesson. There's a risk with that they could get a little bit overexcited, but again, it's all about which activities are going to suit your class in your classroom at the time your lesson is in. So play at its most basic level is one of the best things to do. Me personally, my most common warmer is I'll just say hello. So I will get everybody sitting down around the table, and I will go to each student in turn and say, how are you today? And that's quite difficult for them at first, but as we spoke about in the video on learner training, it's not that difficult to do and get some kind of interaction from. And normally it would be, I kill Teacher Sam, or I eat poo-poo, or something like this. And then after this very short interaction where they say just a word or two to me, then we have a, pre-COVID of course, then we have a high five. And then I would overly exaggerate the power of the high five and fall off my chair or something, make all the kids laugh. And then each kid in turn around the classroom will get to, it's a trade-off. I say, how are you? They say a couple of words to me, then we do a high five, I fall off my chair, rinse, repeat. And yeah, it gets everybody onto the same page, and it also does another purpose of the warmer, which is we get over that initial stumbling block of that first interaction. And so and they've spoken, they've had some output in English, and after that initial bit of output, all the other subsequent output will be that little bit easier. So yeah, so for me personally, I just have a very simple, I don't even stand up for it. We sit down at the table and we say hello to each other, and that's it. Other warmers that many teachers like to do is writing the name, writing each student who's in the class's name on the board. That's great. Even if we can't read yet, they start to recognize the shape of their own name as a character almost. So that's good for reinforcing their name. Many teachers would like to give the students a choice of color. So if I've got student A likes orange, then they can have student A in orange. Student B likes red, student B, and so on and so on. This, just like the high five is an incentive to interaction. If they want to make that choice, they have to communicate and talk with the teacher, even if it's only saying one word: red, orange, blue, whatever. We still get that first step of interaction done, and from there it's much easier to encourage verbal communication. Many students also like to set up a kind of star system. I won't go into all of the variations that we have on that. Every teacher does it a bit differently, but some people like to then give students a number of stars or whatever, or set it up so that stars can be introduced at a future point. So these kinds of things are very useful for getting the students in and comfortable at the beginning of the lesson. In terms of more game-like things, teacher says, like Simon Says, is a really good one to do, especially with quite a quiet group. You can get them up and engaged and active. That's more of a true up activity. In bigger classrooms, I've known some teachers to play musical chairs, which is a interesting way of doing it, but again, you need to have a big space for that, and there's a lot of rooms which I know that's not viable in. But hopefully you see the idea that the main thing you want to do is get everybody interacting in some way. Ideally, if you can do it, get them interacting with you. A tiny bit of verbal interaction would be great. It's not necessary. The main aim is to get everybody together on the same page. Now, in terms of, just as a quick note at the end here, about integrating new students or shy students. Normally, if you've got a big group, the shy student can fade into the background a little bit, and they can just follow on from the other students. If they don't want to engage in their first couple of warmers, don't make them engage. Just let it wash by them until they're a bit more comfortable. But generally speaking, if you've got like 4 other students in the class, and then your new nervous student is the 5th, then often by the time you get round to them at the end, they want to do what the other kids are doing and join in. Now, if you've got only 1 student or 2 students, you don't get that benefit of the social aspect of the other students. So there are other things you need to do. One of my favourite things to do would be to, if there are blocks in the classroom, especially with K1 students and they're very nervous and they don't want to speak with me, I will start to play with some blocks on a table. I won't make eye contact with the student, I'll just play with the blocks on the table. And then of course the student, they don't really want to interact with me, but they do want my blocks. So I will give them some blocks to do, and then they'll start building a house or whatever. But there's only a finite number of blocks and they'll run out in the end. And of course the only other place where the blocks are is in front of me. So they'll look at me and I will offer them some of my blocks. And in that action of passing my block to them, we've got that first point of communication. And slowly but surely, all my blocks will disappear, one by one off to the student. I can then ask them some questions about the house. Is that a house? What colour's this? Blah, blah, blah. And normally by the end of that, we're a little bit more comfortable. Now, it doesn't have to be blocks, it can be anything, but a good way to integrate new students, if they're on their own, is to do something that they want to take part in. Don't tell them you will take part in this, just begin something that you think they would want to do and let them come to you. And then without putting any pressure on them, keeping the threshold for interaction as low as possible, allow them to make baby steps towards joining in. Now, that's a bit more complex and we can talk about that another time perhaps, but hopefully this video has given you a little bit of an idea of the main ideas related to warmers and getting the lesson going, getting the students up onto the same page. And hopefully it will be useful for you in your lessons.